Ah, hello, hello, the plain truth. Alpha Beta. Blood Sticker. John, hey. Hope you're having a bit of a break. And, cool. Okay, I've got to just get used to my setup here. KK Westbury, hi. Renegade 1, hello. Boom Me, hi. Al. Alright, well, apparently I've got an excellent connection. Can you hear me okay? Oh, hi, Ak. Don't Look Up. Yes, I watched Don't Look Up the other day. It was a good one. It was a good, you can take. It's probably worth listening to it and uh, okay, you have been having a break. Okay, good to know that. Yeah, it's been a pretty hectic few days for myself. Tried to take a break. Didn't happen too much. Just been kind of pounding away at the keyboard. But open panel, says the plain truth. Gregory Roger. Glenn Souch, my comment bar says slow mode is on. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you have to wait for 10 seconds. Sorry, Oh, now I'm on a very small screen at the moment. I had to change my monitor, so I'm not sure how I can change that now. Oops. Okay, cancel. No, I can't do it. Yeah, slow mode is on. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, Radio 419. Amazing how Leonardo was inspired after making the beach on Phuket. Yeah, that was a long time ago. There was a lot of controversy when he came here and did that because it was a national park. So, no one was allowed to go into that place. But okay, Hollywood's allowed to go in. So there was a lot of controversy when that happened. So, yeah. Anyway, hope you're all doing okay. And oops, just make sure. Yeah, I wanted to just talk about the whole idea of, well, what is often commonly assumed that flat Earth is a cult. So I thought we could have a look at some of those things. Ask ourselves what is a cult and what are those things, the beliefs and the mantras and the doctrine involved in a cult. I'll try to keep an eye on your chat at the same time. Hi, what's that? Platt Jord. Hi again. Okay. Oh, right. Yes. Hi. About the Swedish, the flat Earth, Sweden. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. I have been away from all social media and everything. Just kept away from the computer and the phone. Everything got turned off for a couple of days, just to focus on being with the family. It's very, very nice. So yeah, I'll try and look at the emails later. So thanks for the reminder there. Is that Platt Jord? Is that how I say that? Platt. Does that mean flat Earth in Swedish? Platt Earth. Platt Jord. Okay. Man on the Edge. Why do people like MC Toon and FD Fight the Flat Earth devote so much time towards debating flat Earth? Good point, Man on the Edge. Yeah, and that's part of it, I suppose. So yeah, what I wanted to obviously think about here is of course we can ask these questions, and it is something that I'm sure all of us have asked ourselves. I mean, I ask myself this: Am I getting into a cult? Am I adopting cult behaviours? And so let's just say right from the start that flat Earth is a topic, and it's a divisive topic, and like many things, it is it can be formed around certain beliefs. So we do enter into the realm of kind of something like religion, and yes, there are cult elements, and there are with any topic, with anything, there are always people that will latch on to that and will maybe attempt to become some kind of cult leader or create some kind of cult following. And so there is no doubt that does take place in the so-called flat Earth community. There are certain things that you know, as I've got a whole list of stuff here that I've written down that I'd like to go through. You know, to talk about all this. So you know, this is just I've formulated these notes based on a bunch of, you know, just some research over the last couple of days, just to you know, drawing together the main elements of what people consider cult-like behavior, or people, you know, from accounts of people that have been in a cult and left a cult. And of course, a lot of the time they are religious things, aren't they? You know, we hear about these extremists or you know, these communes where a cult has become very entrenched, and they have, you know, kind of segregated themselves and isolated themselves, and of course that is part of it. But yeah, okay, Radio 419, I mean, you are making the kind of point that I'm also going to point out here, and hopefully you can see from this that globalism is a cult. Hi, Tony T. And you know, a lot of that's the thing. So what is a cult? It's a following. It's a set of beliefs. It's a way of life. It's, you know, when you talk about a religion, you can talk about that. So really, it could be anything. It could be a bunch of and it's mostly benevolent. Yeah, a bunch of train spotters or sports enthusiasts, martial artists, or you know, punk musicians, goths, whatever, or you know, you can think of the family as a cult, or certain aspects of society. There's the drinking culture. As when I went back to England recently, there was that kind of. That's what's interesting about what's been happening recently is the English culture is very much centered, or a large significant part of it is centered around pub life. That is a culture, and it's not only the alcohol, but just the kind of the things that are become. So you know, for the most part, we're all involved in some kind of cult. Because I suppose it comes from the word culture, right? So hi, Gadget Inspector. You know, culture. So we talked about it the other day. You know, one of the realizations that you have in a personal journey of awakening, on whatever path you are taking, this kind of self-realization, you know, or study of the self, is that you start to realize that every single one of us will act or think or react in a certain way because of our upbringing, because of the culture we were raised in. Can't be helped. I mean, whether you sometimes mimic your parents or not, or maybe you were very aware of that, and you try not to mimic them. You know, there is that realization that you were brought up a certain way, and your thought patterns and beliefs were shaped and formed. And of course, the mainstream media does that in a lot of respects. You know, certain people have a political party that they belong to, or certain newspaper that they read. These are all, you know, cultural materials. Yeah. So I think. Okay, Platt Jord, unfortunately cannot stay for long. I'm just about to be picked up. Okay, good. All right. Just wanted to ask you: are you familiar with the Bok saga from Finland? No, I'm not. Okay, but I'll look into it. Thanks, Platt Jord. I'll take that. I'll take a look at that. But okay, maybe hope you can catch up later. Yeah, and I do hope we can catch up too. I'll look out for the email from you. Eye level, hi, what's that? Off to work. Okay, all right, have a good one, eye level. Hi, Tony Dixon. Yeah, good point. The globe Earth image is a religious symbol for the cult who believe in it. Oh, hello, Sandra. Rudy and the dogs, pubs and social clubs, etc., have been stripped away for the past year. Yeah, Paul E. Hi. Yeah. It's okay, Swallow. Yeah, it's okay. Rudy, got you there. Um, so I suppose one of those things is that, most of the time, most of us will gravitate to some kind of group. We'll be in a group, of like-minded people. So you could consider that a cult of sorts. And of course, there are going to be certain things that you mutually understand or mutually agree on. But usually that's, there is still diversity within the group, and it might not necessarily affect the rest of your life, but obviously things can get very, very deep there, can't they, with cultures, and you just become very invested in it. So what kind of people join a cult? Everyone is susceptible to being in a cult. In fact, it's a rare individual that can actually never ever be influenced by external dialogue. Run with the light. Oh, thank you very much. Hi from Norfolk. Oh yeah, never got to travel the Norfolk Broads. Wanted to when I was a youngster. Wanted to get on a boat and try and travel the Norfolk Broads, but end up just getting out of the country instead. Tony T, where's your beer? I don't know. I'm just doing tea myself. Mm. Yeah, Paulie, you can't argue with direct reality. That's the thing, and coming around to that at some point. So yeah, what kind of people can be involved in a cult? Often intelligent people, can get involved in a cult. Their social standing doesn't really make any difference. They might be university graduates. They could be anyone. But maybe one of the prevailing traits is maybe possibly lacking self-confidence, or maybe direction. And this is one of the things, isn't it? Because we're all curious about those big questions, trying to get the answers to life, the universe, and everything. So, of course, if there is something or someone or some perceived authority that can come along and give you that kind of comfort, then that is very much part of it, isn't it? Because one of the main things about a cult, of course, is that there is a belief system. That becomes sacred, and then this is when you start getting the division. Stuart Lundy, hi. David Banner, hello there. Thanks for joining, everyone. It's great. If you don't mind, I'll just kind of go through the things here and maybe just spot some chat here and there, but talk amongst yourselves as well. So there's the belief system which is defined in a cult, and again, keeping in mind that for the most part, some kind of cult or a group or a collaboration of sorts is not necessarily evil, but it's always going to depend on the certain people that are attempting to lead for their own benefit. Yeah. So these cult belief systems will often be based on some kind of obsession, or something that people can be passionate about. So, okay, again, while we go through this, yes, this is about flat Earth and asking the question as to whether we're in a cult, but think about everything else that is going around on at the moment. You might be talking, it might be climate change, it might be politics, it might be sanitization, it might be this fear of germs. So we have these obsessions. One that stands out, for example, with the globe is geometry. Obviously, a lot of this, the whole thing is based on geometry, and it's because of mathematicians' obsessions with geometry and that kind of perfection that you get with a sphere. This can become a crux of a cult. Maybe that's what the G is for in the Masons. It could be gravity, it could be God, it could be geometry. Is geometry the God there? And for people with some kind of OCD, they're always seeking perfection, then then the geometry is always very nice, is comforting, yeah. And anything that goes away from that geometry will be uncomfortable, yeah. What's that, Rudy and the dogs? It's cults that want to harm society to bring about their aims is when cults get... Absolutely, Rudy. Yeah, I totally agree there. Nice to see you reflect that, because, yeah, obviously, you know, cult and culture is not necessarily a bad thing. Right, AR23, if the truth is a cult, I'm into a cult. Again, yeah, I was going to really touch on that, yeah, because that's about, you know, seeking your own truth and kind of an independent. I suppose it's you know, it's when you start to try and say this is the truth, and you're asking people to believe in something, and whether it you know, it could be some kind of scripture or whatever, a past event or a previous event, a story, yeah, and that's not something that we can prove. It becomes a belief, but you have to believe this belief, and so of course we see this. You know, we for the most part believe that this kind of two-party politics is kind of a natural what's the word, evolution of our species. You know, we've got our democracy, we've evolved into this democracy, and you know, this illusion of democracy and the false dichotomy of the one or the other is you know, it becomes a cult thing, yeah. So yeah, again, if you know, when you're talking about, yeah, direct reality, the tangible reality, that's not belief, is it? That's about what's really there, what's obvious, what's objectively true, yeah. So that's a big difference between, you know, the truth rather than a perceived truth that you have to believe in. And again, it comes back to that truth being sacred. There's you know, also, I suppose, you know, a lot of this is when you've got this obsession with whether it's with geometry or germs or sanitation or disease, which you can see happening now, and you can see these cult-like behaviours coming out with the kind of the behaviours that I'm going to kind of get to in a minute. But I suppose one of the main things with a cult that people can become obsessive over is some kind of answer, an answer to those questions, life, the universe, and everything, and a cure, maybe. You know, the answer to all these problems that I'm having as an individual. If one can feel that there is some hope of getting an answer from the cult leader, then that would be an indicator, wouldn't it? Yeah. So, you know, those are the kind of things that are incorporated into the belief system that would draw people into a cult. Yeah. So, of course, those beliefs are assumed to be for the good and the benefit of all. It outwardly appears to be benevolent, but obviously when you get with the kind of the evil cults, you know, those behaviors are pushed upon people, and you're told what you're doing is for everyone's good. You know, you're cleaning your hands for everyone's good. You're staying inside for the better good. You're giving up your freedoms for everyone's good. And so, of course, it taps into that because for the most part, most people are good and want to contribute to society. So, you know, that aspect of people's good nature is taken and manipulated or misdirected. I heard someone the other day who was, you know, we were talking about the whole, you know, he's a tripler, a triple taker, but his reaction, he just knew that he said, "You haven't, have you?" And I said, no way. But his immediate reaction was, "I just can't believe that there would be such a coordinated effort between all these different countries how can they all be doing the same thing? He said, I just can't believe it. But it was interesting because this guy was in the media, and I'm thinking, well, you know how easy it is to influence people with media, there's probably a lot of self-censorship that goes on as well, especially when you're running a publication in a country like this. Then you have to be extra careful. So there's this self-censorship. It's interesting, again, but mostly good-natured people just cannot believe that a small group of people could have so much influence. But the thing is, if you are involved in the media, you should understand just how easy it is to do that. It's interesting how people will just brush it off. So yeah, we've got this idea that the beliefs that the doctrines and the beliefs that the cult members adhere to are for the benefit of everyone. So okay, that as far as when it comes to flat Earth, one of those feelings, again, there is where should we start here? Yes, flat Earth, you have an image that comes up of this disc in space, and that is a cult-like symbol as much as the globe in space is. It's just a kind of it's taken that globe in space idea and tried to translate it. In many ways, it shows how just ingrained and how solidified that image of us being somewhere in space has been put into our minds, when we could be on something equivalent to an ant farm or a petri dish. Who knows? So Tony Dixon nicely said, it's always best to break away from the cult mentality. Be yourself, just represent yourself. Yeah. So there's no doubt that I saw a lot of these cult-like behaviours occurring among certain people or certain groups, let's say, in the so-called flat Earth community. But really, this is still a whole bunch of people trying to find things out for themselves. And these things often happen without planning as well. They seem to naturally occur because we, to an extent, we understand human nature, and you understand that there is, you need to make some kind of certain efforts to, for self-preservation when you've gone down a certain route, so you can see that as well. So what's that? I'm just catching up with the chat there. Rudy and the Dog. Centralized dictatorship is being ramped up due to the tech and corporate-owned media. We live in a virtual panopticon prison society. Oh, no, I like that word. Yeah, true. That is it. And it is so easy to control the narrative, isn't it? That's one of the things, isn't it? Two little fish. We all thought we were on a ball at one point, so I see how people can't stand back and look at things, many things. Yeah, and of course, for the most part, we don't even question it. Paul E, I like the ending of Two Men in Black on Earth's scale. Oh, the one where it's you're inside the galaxy is inside a kind of ball that an alien's playing with. Yeah, it's kind of cool, that, isn't it? I like that too. It's that was good. Glenn Souch, flat Earth is not a description of the Earth's shape. It's a term to question. Absolutely, Glenn. Yeah, true. Because obviously, ultimately, what we're talking about, and someone mentioned it earlier, is direct realism, where it is obviously level. Water behaves that way. We see level. We see flatness. And that's why it's called flat Earth rather than the globe. But yes, anything beyond that. Domes and things, and where are we, and ice walls, these are all kind of beliefs which can become cult-like beliefs. So I don't know, is there an ice wall? Makes sense that there would be, but I've got no idea if there is, and it would be difficult to prove that. So in my mind, that remains a belief, and I understand that how that can be made from the map projections that you suddenly get Antarctica turning into an ice wall. So it certainly doesn't mean that that's what's out there. It's maybe an alternative way of considering it or thinking about it, at least to get off the kind of globe idea, but that's certainly not a truth. yeah, full exploration is needed, absolutely. Hi D Schultz, it is natural, it is like a filter. True personalities come out in any strong movement. Effie is chock full of self-serving dark triad types. Doesn't mean Effie is for absolutely. Yeah, really good, well said, D Schultz. Yes, exactly. I mean, yeah, there's a whole all manner of people that are seeking truth, and obviously at some point realize that the globe is a belief. And Glenn Souch, I don't mean you need to mention religion to have a relationship with God. My connection to God is a personal one. Yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, this is it. Of course, as soon as we get into that realm of subjectivity, subjectiveness, the subjective nature of reality, that's the thing. It's very real. It's very real for every single one of us, isn't it? But it's not something that you can really share, and because it's not objective. But that's the thing. We're in our bodies, and we're in a very tangible world. But there's no denying that there is a life force. There is an intangible, subjective nature to all of this, and we can all, of course, question what what's going on there. Oh, Glenn, you did. I got. I had some ginger. That's helped. Ginger and lemon. So thanks for that suggestion you gave me the other day. You encouraged me to get on that. Okay, Rudy, you need to walk the doggies. All right, well, we'll come back if you've got time. And we might be going for a while because I'm only up to number 2 on my list. Yeah. So, of course, another thing that happens is an enemy is created with a cult. So you've got your beliefs; those beliefs are sacred, and of course, then you've got the enemy that is created, and these are basically the enemy would end up being the non-believers. Now, again, there's no doubt that you see this in so-called flat Earth community members. The globe tards, or the brainwashed, the sheeple, all that stuff. Now, again, we all recognise that we all believe this without too much question. But then it came, but then you take the extreme of the people that, I'm sorry, I can't remember who pointed out earlier, but the Fight the Flat Earth and the MC Toon and all these other guys that have, what is it, Mr. Sensible and people like that. Some of these people that kind of come up, Simon, Dan, whatever, they come up as consistently attacking the flat earthers, and so we have become their enemy. They are defending their cult, and they're not listening after all this time. They're still repeating the same mantras and still assuming that flat earthers are stupid, don't understand maths, and all these other things. Doesn't matter what you tell them, what kind of discussion you'll have with them. Hi, Stashman. Long time no see. Hello, Annette. Have you even had an insightful conversation with the Glober? Good question, Annette. Well, obviously, not the kind that are constantly on the attack or constantly attacking the people like myself, or making hit piece videos and things like that. No, I've never had it. Never ever. You cannot get it. You cannot. And the odd troll that comes along, and they are, well, I say the odd. There are many. No, you very rarely get to the point where you can have a decent conversation if they've come in guns blazing and, oh, you're stupid, you're an idiot. Then it's hi, in Rem. Good to see you, man. I bet it's cold where you are at the moment. So hope you're keeping warm with your. By the way, you must shout out to InRem. If you want to learn how to make your own kind of fire stoves and things like that, check out InRem's channel there. There's a man with some good practical skills there. So nice stuff. AR23, since I found out about flat Earth, I learned more about science than I ever did. Absolutely, same here. Yeah, because there was that thirst for knowledge. So this again comes down to one of those main issues, which hopefully I'll remember to talk about later. That differentiates FE from other cults, as it were. So there's always, with a cult, there is that. Always that mission to invalidate criticism. So of course that does happen with the the guys that we talked about earlier, those who are defending the globe vehemently, and they've got channels dedicated to doing that and basically trashing flat earthers. So their enemy are the people asking questions, the truth seekers, and that goes again back to this belief system being sacred. You cannot question the science or the priesthood, the scientists or the mathematicians. It's unquestionable. And then if you do, then you're immediately branded with these very broad sweeping labels. There's no discernment, so there's this bigotry. You're tarring everyone with the same brush there. Oh, you're anti-science, you're an anti-vaxxer, you're an anti-this or whatever. It's just like, no, that's you've just made up your mind. You made me into an enemy of yours, and you're just gonna defend. It's interesting. Yeah, just seeing the chat. So Stashman, only problem is we can't scan anything without the proper materials and tools to make proof. That's it. It all comes down to faith, doesn't it? Two little fish. I didn't pay attention too much at school, so excuse me. So I didn't even know most of the globe chart they tell children. I still found myself believing until I met a few of you many years ago and actually listened. Ah, nice. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? For a lot of us, it just goes over our head. And of course, again, it's going to be, if you're into space, if you're into building things, and I mean, totally understand the fascination with space and rockets and all that stuff. And I'm not a disbeliever of that. There are satellites going around. Again, it comes down to definitions. Are they balloons, or are they being carried around on some kind of current up there? There are many ways we can do this, or imagine that what's happening. So I don't necessarily deny space. It's all about, as you were pointing out there, how much of it, how do you, is it really clear what it all is? And that's the thing, isn't it? When you start questioning this and you start asking people, okay, where is the boundary? Where does gravity end? Where does the atmosphere end? When are you free from the spinning ball? No one can answer these questions. Where does it start to curve? Where do the physical properties of water suddenly change so that water doesn't flow down curves? All these questions. How come the Foucault's pendulum is said to swing above a rotating Earth, yet an aircraft won't do that, or something hovering there won't do that? You ask those questions and you don't really have clear answers come back at you. So then you realize that a lot of these explanations are simply beliefs. They are just explanations, narrative to go with the thing. AER23 says, do you think the flat earth crowd has shills to misdirect? I mean, really, that should be hard if you do your own observations. Yeah, well, I mean, misdirect. Yeah, anyone who's telling you they know what's out there, or they have a model, is probably, they're just trying to misdirect you and getting you to jump on board with a certain belief. And of course, as I said earlier, there are whatever topic, it could be train spotting, or it could be anime. There are people that will see opportunities to profit, to benefit from those people that are have this obsession, or like-minded people. So they're always going to be there in every walk of life, whatever it is, whether it's churches or politics, all this stuff, everything. There are always going to be people who are going to take advantage of the gullible, of those, So, yeah, you get them everywhere, and so I'm just going off track. There are lots of chat. Lee the boss, hello. Right, man on the edge. Oh, hello, flat Earth vegans. Yeah, I mean, we know, as far as space goes, I mean, it's just, it's things being shot out there, and all we're relying on is a few signals to come back. So, yeah. AR23, your biggest question is, does existence exist? Yeah. Well, we exist in some way, that's for sure. I think, hello, Trumpty Dumpty. Andy Taylor, it's not a cult, that's what the powers that shouldn't be want, just to demean it. I think our land is in part of a toroid field, and there is a tree at the centre where the Aurora Borealis is. Nice one, Andy. Yeah, I would certainly, that there is certainly exploration to be done there towards the North Pole and all that. What's that? ST3PO. Mr. 42 channel shows you how he hacked David's app, so if you have the Flat Earth app, you might want to delete that. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. Tony Dixon. Glenn Souch, sorry. Calling Flat Earth a disk is a misdirection. It is not. It has depth and reaches we cannot obtain, but the zero amplitude of water rests on a plane of magnetic convergence. Again, yeah, the magnetism is something that's obviously there. You can't, ignore that or deny that it exists. Tony Dixon, the spinning globe believers must agree on first principles. Bodies of water always find their lowest level. If it is not agreed upon, end of goes. Yeah, absolutely. And I've been trying to do this with a few people recently that have come in and tried to argue. And it's like, well, let's just, establish that it's visibly, observably level. It's locally flat, if you like. That's what we see. Can we at least admit to that? But you get the resistance straight away. You just don't get that agreement on the first principles. So that they know that they are defending a belief. They already know, of course, that if they say, well, okay, yes, it does look flat, then anything else they say about curvature is based on faith. So. Yeah, it's there in their mind. Everyone you deal with is intelligent enough to understand that if they agree that we only see flatness, we don't see any curvature, then that means that anything I say about curvature is based on faith or an appeal to authority. Yeah. So, Musicians for Truth, hi. Okay, Pat Jord. Okay, you didn't go out to walk the dogs, or have you come back again? TV science guy Bill Nye, or what his name accidentally said in a show, it's a closed system, no one can leave it. Yes, I remember that, and I think there's also I can't remember the name of the guy, but another NASA guy, puppet there, has kind of done these TED conferences and said, well, we have this rocket equation, I can't remember, problem, because basically, we can't carry enough fuel to get us far enough away from Earth. So there's a limit to how much they can carry up. So yeah, it is a problem that they seem to be quite open about, forgetting that they told us they went to the moon and escaped Earth orbit. Yeah, it's quite funny, isn't it? Again, those contradictions exist. So we're asked to believe that they went to the moon, but also believe this guy that's telling us, which is something which is probably more truthful, that it's impossible to get to beyond a certain point because we can't carry enough fuel. It's too heavy to go there. They need some other way of. Basically, they need to come up with something else other than your kind of rocket fuel, and of course they don't have that. Yeah, the Van Allen belt as well. Yeah. Two Little Fish, questioning everything is a cult. Just shut up and listen to the experts who are paid well to tell you stuff. That's right. Okay. Right. So there's always that attempt to invalidate criticism. And again, yes, it does happen with, especially someone who's just kind of realized that they were conned into believing we live on a globe. So of course then, oh, you're brainwashed, you don't know what you're talking about, and so it does swing that way as well. But you definitely see this in these attempts to invalidate criticism. And again, look at what we've seen over the past few years, with the anti this, you're an anti so and so. And it's like, no. Well, yes, but then, it's funny because you end up, someone calls you an anti this, you end up trying to defend that and say, well, yes, but no, but, and we can even, rather than just, trying to defend that and soften the blow, or lessen this idea of a division, we end up kind of getting into a kind of compromising position. And just saying stuff to please that other person, just to kind of, because you've got this label. So labels is a huge part of it. You get these labels of the non-believers, flurfers, what have you. And so I've never liked, for example, the term globe-tard. I don't like it. I don't like using it. I don't think I've ever used it, and to be honest, I don't encourage that kind of, talk, because to me this has always been about sharing. It's just about sharing my own discovery, sharing the journey, and hopefully imparting some of the knowledge picked up on the way, and encouraging others to just seek their own truth, or at least discern between knowledge and belief. So Celtic Man, hi. Mighty Atom, I do believe this pandemic was created to prevent an awakening. Yeah. So okay, this kind of leads me on to the next point. So we've got these broad labels. We've got the twisting and the controlling of the narrative, which of course we see is being done in all the mainstream media, owned by a few people. They're reading from the same press releases. Other people have pointed it out, but I remember when I was back in the UK seeing the newspaper rack, and they all had the same headline, the same wrap on the front. This is a very concerted effort to control the narrative, whether it's online, social media. It's all being done there, 24/7. There's no let up, and that again is part of it. Keeping people occupied, keeping people distracted. But what's interesting is because we have the isolation, that again is you isolate people. And you control the narrative, so it's funny that they're only hearing what you're trying to tell them, your beliefs, and they're not being given many chances to really discuss that openly, and they're being distracted with all these other things, hoops to jump through. So there's the isolation and the distraction at the same time. So it really is, again, just think about what has been happening over the past couple of years, and it becomes very, very obvious what's been going on. Well, it just, surely the last couple of years should show a lot of people just how easy it is to create a cult and create consensus. You've now got people who are not sick, testing themselves, but they're driving miles to do it, and they feel as if they're again, they're part. It's funny because while there's the isolation, there's this feeling of camaraderie with the other people, but you'll see these people lined up, and they're just, they're standing in a line, and they're doing that. In the old days, you'd get into a line and you might start chatting with the person next to you, but no, everyone's got thousands of friends that they're chatting to online, but not communicating with the people right next to them, which is, again, that movie Look Up is a good one there in that respect. Flat Earth vegans using our own critical thinking is what we got us now, the opposite of a cult. Absolutely, really good point. It is about, because that's what you're trying to encourage people to use critical thinking. And what I've also found funny about the last few years is that, you know, people do get very creative, and in a way they will use their critical thinking skills to come up with really obscure ways of imprisoning themselves and maintaining the cult, and, you know, the self-sacrifice, and all these things. You know, so we've got, okay, this comes down to the, you know, okay, slogans is another thing, and we've seen that again. We see it with certain, you know, with any kind of group that is trying to gel itself and trying to isolate itself, or, you know, separate itself from others. You get these slogans, you get that, but of course this has been carried out on a mass scale, and that's what's quite entertaining in some ways, but also frightening when you see that happening. You see the Prime Minister stand up on a podium with 3 words emblazoned across the thing there, and that's been incorporated into their speeches, and it's quickly picked up by the masses, and it's repeated and it's driven home. So it's obvious what they're doing, and it's funny because you think it should be obvious to everyone, but it's not. They just take it on board as, I don't know what, they're just not really thinking about it. But when, just that's the difference, isn't it? When you've when you've left the cult, you can see how they do it, how they put the messages out there, how they use fear, and now of course this comes down to the rules. You know, these rules are established. So we've got the belief system. The beliefs are sacred. You're not allowed to question them. You're not allowed to question the priests that have been put up there, the hierarchy. So of course in a cult you've got, you know, you might have one leader, you might have several leaders, you know, this kind of the priesthood, yeah, and all these the very those cult members that are very enthusiastic, you know, they are then brought up the ranks, they are given privileges, they are encouraged, they are massaged, and they then go and carry on the spiel, yeah. And you can see this even in you know, one time or other you might well have been involved in some kind of network marketing or pyramid scheme, or you've known someone, or you've gone along to one of their meetings, and where they get you to buy products and then sell them to other people, and you know, these businesses are all over the place. When I was very young, just after leaving school, I got involved in one that was selling water filters. The water filters were great, you know, they were carbon, and they were real things. But of course, the idea was that you invest in a little bit, you buy the product, and you go and sell it, and you try to get other people on board underneath you buying a lot of the product. So, you know, again, you've got this products which are good for people, and so, or the Avon products, things like that, you know, that kind of thing. You know, you quickly get people on board, and then these people are, even the, you know, the newbies that are on a buzz, they manage to sell a few products, or they got a few people under them, they're put out there, and they're allowed to make a speech, and so, you know, they're made to feel included. Yeah, this is all about building this guy. This is just purely business, but that's how we, you know, this is the kind of thing that happens all over the place. It's just in every facet of society there are cults and groups, and we often go between one or the other, or we go through one, and you have that realization that okay, I was being taken advantage of, or you know, I can do this on my own. I don't need these people to do this. Yeah, okay. I'm just kind of trying not to get too distracted with the chat. You carry on by yourself. Aaron Lenore, I'm selling nothing. Yeah, okay, good one. So the rules, yeah. So then we got the rules come along, and we've seen this again over the past few years, and again with the cult, you know, with the Globe cult, you know, the rules. There are, you know, certain things that you know, these scientific explanations become the rules. Gravity is supposed to work in a certain way, and that's a rule, and you've got to abide by it. And you can see that even, for example, the people in CERN right now, for example, they might be starting to realize that you gravity isn't a thing the way they've imagined it, but they can't disobey those rules that have been established. Yeah. So it always takes a long time to make any progress in that kind of thing. Tony Dixon, good point. Isolation, repetition, and emotion are the three main tools used in brainwashing. Absolutely. So yeah, when it comes down to those, rules and in enforcing the rules, then of course they're done with guilt or shame, and rewards and punishment. So just saying that, I'm sure there are things that come to mind that you can see have been going on recently. And another part of that is also confession. Now, isn't it funny how people seem to be another thing that's really weird about the last few years is that the last thing I would want is I wouldn't want to do a test, and I wouldn't want to test positive. But for some people, that seems to be a really cool thing to do. And they would publicly announce it, and and then it's look at me, I'm self-sacrificing. Now this as well goes to you think about the expenditure, the amount of money that is pushed towards space exploration, and now of course this is and this is a sacrifice. It's only a few dollars a day for each person. And that's that's considered, people accept that as well. I'm sacrificing that for the betterment of mankind, because one day it will get us to another planet and we can explore and the future. And again, we can see all this, everything that's being done is towards some perceived future, some end goal, a cure, an answer, an end solution. The Hegelian dialect, problem, reaction, solution. Yeah, we see that being implemented. And of course, another thing about the whole cult thing is that there's this kind of mystical manipulation where things appear to happen spontaneously, but of course they've been well planned. So you think about the cult where it would appear that the cult leader has managed to pull off some miracle. But it was just planned all along, and we see that we saw that happen. Okay, this illness was introduced. The common cold became the enemy, and then then we had this solution to it. Yeah, so this miracle solution, and of course those people were praised. These people who have brought this forth. The priests are praised with their knighthoods, and they're recognized. So when we see someone like Chris Whitty getting a knighthood for encouraging, it's like okay, he's being dialectic. Okay, sorry, disobey is correcting me there. Dialectic, not dialect. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Celtic Man, I've got to just release your thing there. Okay. Oops. Right. Okay. So, yeah, there's this. We've got the belief system established. We've got the priests. We've got the sacredness of these truths. We've got the rules. We've got the slogans. We've got the enforcement of those rules with the the guilt, the shame, the rewards, the punishment. We've got the confessions. We've got the you're not allowed to question, and there's the shunning of outsiders. And again, we've seen this, haven't we? Taking place. And of course, the divide and rule tactic is a very common one, and anyone who is really on the side of truth is well, first of all, we accept that we're all different, and there is always going to be division, but you can see that when that division is being pushed and forged, and division among family, as long as we're all divided, then we're not united against the real enemy, right? It's this perceived enemy. Jesus is my saviour 3. I looked at the claims of flat earthers as a complete skeptic, thinking what a stupid, ignorant idea. I even took a flight to prove curvature, but it was a flat plane. I think science is an infant. Okay, nice one. Thank you for that. Yeah. Um, yeah, it is. It is in its infancy in a lot of ways, isn't it? And again, because of maybe those things we discussed just now, that it's very difficult to get beyond um, those rules that have been laid out. Everyone has to go along with the rules. So, if you're in this global culture and you're doing things, you're trying to explore space, or trying to get off and find some, then the thing is, if you stick to all the rules of gravity and things like that, and rocket propellant, and you're very restricted in how you might be able to explore other ways. Again, energy. Um, so what's that? Tom Ridley, hi. Big language change lately in film, on TV, around, across the world, has been replaced with across the globe. The word has been retired absolutely in favour of the go. Oh yeah, yeah. Good point, Tom. I come across it a lot my main kind of source of income is freelance writing for various clients, corporate clients a lot of the time. It depends. But of course, the word global comes comes up a lot. Globalization, or around the globe. These are just things, and I will make, when I'm writing or editing, I'll make sure that I use words, across the earth rather than around the world or something like that. So, I'm very conscious of that, but for the most part, we're not very conscious of it, are we? We can, we say these things without thinking, and of course that reinforces those things. So yeah, the globe is very much in, there in our daily life. Wesley, FE versus Ball argument is spiritual in nature. That's why we'll never agree with each other. Look at what Enoch, chapter 87, says about the whole order of stars being hidden from sinners. Okay. Man on the edge, shouldn't there be far more reports of meteorites hitting people and buildings if Earth is a spinning ball in infinite space? Yeah, sure. What's that? Caho? Most of us FEers are former globe believers. We just woke up because something doesn't add up on a globe. Absolutely, yeah. You just look at reality. You start, as I was saying earlier, you start questioning you see the contradictions, and you question the contradictions, and when you don't get an answer, you don't get a clear answer, or you get attacked for asking the question. These are massive hints that you're dealing with a cult mentality there for sure. You're just stupid. You just can't think in 3D, or you don't understand mathematics, blah blah blah. So yeah, just I'll get back to the chat in a minute. So you've got the inner circle, you've got the hierarchy, and you've got these authorities. Again, you often have people say, "Well, I'm not a scientist. I don't have I'm not allowed." So we all, that hierarchy has been established. The mathematician that can reel off these numbers or can write down these equations is considered a priest, and their word is gospel. And if you, and that, it's funny because that's been passed off as science. The last video I did was about talking about the scientific method, and the only reason that the globe is considered science is not because anyone ever measured the globe or discovered anything. No one's ever measured any curvature in a truly scientific way. It's just that obviously mathematics is the language of science, and mathematics is used to create these models, and you can make predictions. So the predictive nature of knowing when the sun will rise and set, or where the stars will be, is of course considered science, and you've made predictions. So in this scientific method, being able to make predictions means that you have proven your hypothesis. So there's the hypothesis that we're spinning around the sun on a globe, and I can prove it by making predictions. The sun will come up at 6:30 in the morning there, and it will set at that time. So poor Lee just wear a white coat. Yeah. So yeah, but you see what I mean? That's why the globe is considered science, because you can make these predictions, and the model is a mathematical model, and voila, it's allowed to be passed off as science. So therein lies the problem. You've got this broad, unquestioning belief that, these mathematicians have got it all sussed out, and of course they are high pagantry. They're all, they've got their qualifications, they've had their accolades, and again we see, you're not allowed to question the science of the medicine that that's being put upon us for this disease. We're not allowed to question the science of the disease. When you do, you find out all sorts of things that are horrific and are enough to prevent you from taking part. Yeah. So, right. Talked about isolation. We got the hierarchy, the leaders, the priests, and they're often charismatic. You look at, for example, Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's quite funny. He is kind of charismatic, but all he is a salesman for NASA. Yeah. He sells space. And he's a wonderful salesman because he believes, I'm sure he truly believes the product he's selling. But it's funny, isn't it? You ask him, or he has been asked before, and he doesn't fancy the idea of going to space. He might go up in a high altitude aircraft, but for him, going up in a rocket is not something he wants to do. But he probably believes wholeheartedly in the products that he's selling, so what a great salesman he is. But all he's doing is, when he goes to these other countries, whether it's India or Japan, then, he's selling NASA's services. Oh, you want to go to space? You want to launch satellites? We've already done this. We've been doing this for years. We're the experts. Hook up with us. We'll guide you through it. And we'll help you launch your rockets. We'll give you the science. We'll give you the know-how. And away you go. But everything will come through us, and we'll take a piece of the pie. It's just business. Space is an industry. It's obviously the communication industry, which is huge, and we see the cult nature of that. Whether it's your Elon Musk's or your Jeff Bezos's or your Virgin, these are all, they have their cult-like elements. Yeah. Now, I wouldn't, again, when we talk about enemies, then, NASA would become an enemy to the flat earther. If this, and that to me is you've got to recognize that is a kind of cult thing. Now, I've said it before, there's a lot of smart people, well-intentioned people, and for the most part, they are trying to do something good, and their creativity is being channeled in a way that is making progress. I'm sure a lot of the products that we use today, the phones and all that kind of thing, this may have hailed from downsizing technology, a lot of which might have been done or was done for the Apollo program. So really, apart from, the goal was to go to the moon. So how do you achieve that goal? Well, you had to basically change computers from these massive things that took up an entire room into something that would fit inside a capsule. So really, the mission there was to downsize technology, and hardware became software. They were. The software was literally it used to be hardware. It was wires being connected, hundreds and thousands of connections. People were employed in these kind of factories. A lot of the time it was women, I think, that you basically had to wire up these computers, wire up these nodes, and that would be the computer. Of course, inside the computer now, that's happening thousands or maybe millions of times faster and more efficiently and without any hardware. But this was really what happened. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were evil. Humans have to have a goal, and it's better to say, oh, let's go to the moon, than let's kill each other with tanks, and let's develop missiles and stuff and see how easily we can, or how many people we can kill. Yeah, I mean, there is a phrase, war is the mother of invention, but I mean, basically we have to have some kind of goal to aim for, and that's understood. So if you can direct humanity's creativity, then you will get some very interesting results. So again, this flat earther doesn't want to go back to the Stone Age. This flat earther appreciates nature and the intelligence of it, and the superior technology of life on this earth. Fungi, trees, the birds, everything. It's all vastly intelligent beyond our comprehension. If you've ever looked into fungi, you'll know that these roots of fungi can go for miles and miles, and they communicate with each other, and they communicate with the trees. It's all going on there. There's a whole lot of stuff going on there in nature, and it's very intelligent, and it's like the computers that we make. We in many ways, we are imitating the intelligence and of nature with our computers and things like that, but we still can't touch it. We still can't, we can't, there is no way we can ever be as powerful as nature. So, in that respect, I don't worry too much about us, climate change and all that kind of thing. Pollution's bad, and we can live without polluting the earth, but there's the impact that we actually have on the entire earth. It's minuscule really compared to what the earth can do to us. A tsunami or an earthquake or a hurricane or a typhoon, boom, these can just wipe us out in no time. It doesn't matter what technology we've got to defect. We can't, we can influence weather, we can direct weather, but at the same time, you can't stop a hurricane hitting you, really, can you? So, I'm getting distracted with the chat. It's great to see so much interaction there, but I'll try and kind of get through this. We've got the shunning of outsiders, keeping people distracted with all this stuff, and we see that with NASA. So I suppose I wanted to say that an enemy is created. So that does sometimes happen. Flat earthers are encouraged to say, NASA's evil and all that stuff. I don't see it that way, because there are obviously good people, and they've done many good things, and there's got to be some way of channeling all that energy and creativity. Who knows? But I'm not vehemently opposed, because people do have livelihoods. It does give people an outlet to create things. It's just a shame that people become so disillusioned, when they build a rover and then they really think it's on Mars, when it's just in a studio, or it's on some difficult to reach place on the Earth. TSA, is it true that Antonio passed away? I think it is. Hi, Zoo Scott. Sad. Antonio was a nice chap as far as I'm concerned. He was very, very nice to me. So it's a shame to see him go. Yeah. Caho says creativity en masse will debunk the globe. Yeah. Okay. Then we got the routines with a cult. Often, the routines are created. Of course, you can see that with any religion, whether it's your Sunday worship or whatever. But again, look at what's happened. Musicians for Truth, well said. Yeah, I kind of agree there. I see NASA as a wing of the industrial military complex. The employees unwittingly space monkeys. Yeah, people get employed. They got something to do, and it kind of, in a way, it keeps the economy going. There's invoices people get. Yeah, so it serves a purpose, or many purposes. But you're right. All they have to do is just sell that dream, of space. Nelson da Silva, the Masonic ties to NASA. Well, the Masons are everywhere. I mean, again, there are good and bad Masons. As we've been talking about, a lot of the time, people's benevolence is it can go a long way, and it's funny, isn't it, when you think about it. Even the richest people in the world that might be real assholes, and there might be many reasons to dislike those people. It's there are livelihoods. Things happen in life, and people meet and people connect, and all these things happen. So there might be some rich person who's very greedy and making a lot of money, but whatever they do is there can be positive things that come about because of that person's actions. So again, maybe it's important to get away from the idea of good and evil. It's rather acceptance of it is this way. Again, going back to what I was saying the other day, and I've said many times, we realize that we are in a world that's similar to the jungle or anywhere else where there are predators and there is prey, and that's just the way it is. Do you feel sorry for the deer that gets eaten by the lion? Do you cheer the lion? It's like, well, it just is. And for us to say what's right and wrong about it is often depends on how we feel about it, or our kind of our subjective view of it, and of course our relationship with death. Now, it's very difficult to know what other animals think when they see a dead animal of their kind around them. I've watched chickens, for example, and the way they slaughter chickens sometimes up country is that they kind of they tie them up and they'll cut the throat and leave them there to bleed out. And so there's chickens there on the floor bleeding out, but those chickens just carrying on their business around the chicken that's dying. So there is no association there for the other chickens that but of course for us, we see someone or something die, we have this empathy, we have this sympathy. So this is a kind of suffering that we suffer from when we see that, because we ultimately what is it? Because ultimately we know that we are going to die. We recognize that we could die. And of course, this is part of the whole cult thing as well. This fear of death, that obviously when an animal is in a fight or flight situation, then it's trying to save its own life. It's trying not to be killed or not to die. But for the most part, an animal isn't going to go around worrying about death. But look at what our society has done to us, whether it's the churches, whether it's your insurance premiums for your house. There's this fear that you're gonna lose everything, you're gonna die, your persona is gonna die. I'm doing ask Rianne. Yeah, she's got a lighter. No, it's empty. You have to ask Rianne. Yeah, Rianne's got it. Yeah, sorry, I just got interrupted there. But so that fear that we have is very much manipulation. So again, we've seen this. It's a way of keeping people in the cult. If you don't follow the rules, if you don't believe, then you are facing certain death. Yeah. This again we can see has been really used and manipulated. That fear of death. And somehow that does relate to the kind of the globe. There are some kind of contradictions there with the whole heliocentric belief, or this faith in science, because it's an attempt to describe and explain the world scientifically without any reference or any need for a god or for this subjective energy or intelligence or consciousness. Scientists, and they can talk about consciousness, but there's always this effort to try and isn't it weird, the whole evolution thing? Space rocks growing from amoeba to whatever and then becoming, at some point there was this evolution without any consciousness, and then consciousness came along. It's really, that doesn't relate at all to how we experience the world. We really can't explain what consciousness is, but it is definitely something that is within us, and in many ways could be separate from our physical existence. It carries on, it's eternal. The consciousness is eternal. That might be wishful thinking. Again, we don't know, but you see, if we are of this belief that you die and that's it, or you die and then you go to hell or you go to heaven, it all becomes faith, it all becomes belief, and maybe it's quite insane, it's quite funny that we are so obsessed with death, and there is this macabre fascination, isn't there, among us, to what, it's funny, isn't it? We try and avoid seeing it. We try and cover it up, but at the same time we often invite it. It's a weird thing. Our relationship with death is a very bizarre one, because we kind of, it's a love-hate thing, isn't it? Yeah, because we simply don't know what happens after death. It's again, this can be manipulated. So we came down, talking about the routines of religion. This could be, washing and praying and what have you. And then this frequent reminder of the consequences, death, disease, ostracization, and ultimately there's, with a cult, there's always the carrot being dangled. Keep focused on the carrot, this pushing, leading everyone to a future. And N.A. literalist, that's a good one. The elite wants to live forever. Yes, so ultimately, that they are living in fear. The last thing they want to give up is their good lifestyle that they've had. It must terrify them. Death must terrify them a lot. That's one of the things we've got to, on your personal journey. It's overcoming that fear of death, isn't it? Isn't that a wonderful state to be in, when you're really, really not afraid of death? Now you can pretend to be, you can kind of have that as a goal. I want to not fear death, and maybe we don't when we're younger. A lot of the time we'll go into a dangerous situation because we're just not thinking about it. But the older you get, the more you think about it. It's to be truly free of that fear of death really is quite an achievement, and it's not necessarily going to happen if you believe in God, or you believe in salvation, or you believe in heaven, or you believe that if you do the right thing you're gonna, that's just a distraction. That's just the carrot. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing religions or Christians or the Bible or anything like that. All these things have people within them that are either good or bad. They've got benevolent intentions or they've got evil intentions, and they will create cults within the cults. So again, do not tar everyone with the same brush here, and do not assume when I'm saying some of these things that I'm tarring everyone with the same brush. There's always that recognition and understanding that within any group you've got subgroups and people, individuals that will either take advantage of others or they will do their best to help each other. Yeah. So Rudy and the dogs. I thought I was not scared of death, but once I could not breathe, and I was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that can be brought back to you, and of course, there's a difference between, again, being in a situation where you have to fight for your life. All of a sudden, instincts are going to kick in. Your heart's going to pound, and these kinds of things. You go into survival mode, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think you could ever really prevent that from happening, but with meditation or at least consistent attempts to detach from the beliefs and recognizing the way the emotions come in, then we're not going to be led by fear. We're not going to be persuaded by fear. The fear is not going to overwhelm us to the point where we can't think rationally anymore. And of course, we've seen that happen over the last few years. Everyone was told to be scared of the unseen enemy. Of course, we're told to be scared of meteorites. We're taught to be scared of diseases. We're taught to be scared of all sorts of things that really really aren't our reality. Yeah. And fear of losing your job, fear of losing your livelihood. A lot of what's happening now is actually ultimately it will benefit a lot of people, because they're being forced into a position where they have they've stood their ground, and now they're going to get sacked or something for remaining independent, for not joining the cult, for not being part. They are being ostracized, but that's okay, because ultimately it forces you into that situation where you then, all right, you're not trapped in that world anymore. You're not trapped on that path. You can now go your own way. I've seen, personally, I get some kind of fulfillment out of, encouraging people to think positively about these changes that are being forced upon us. Because, often when you're forced into a situation, you're given an ultimatum by someone who wants to have power and influence over you. And in that person's mind, you're going to make one of two decisions. You're either going to just leave, or you're going to kowtow and go along with it. But it's not black and white like that. So that's another thing with the cult mentality, is it's black and white. There's no real grey areas. You have to be a Puritan. You have to be totally dedicated to the cause. And of course, so you get this is where you get your Nazis that come out, because they want to show that they're doing it. They're doing the sacrifice. They're doing the penance. They are confessing when they sin. All these things, and they can point the finger. They're all part of being in the cult. Yeah. I think that's a really important point is and that, with the globe thing as well, the carrot, the space exploration. Ultimately, you're sacrificing some of your money, some of your belief, your energy, your devotion, and that is going towards the greater good. And it's funny, really, because people that really support space exploration know that they're not going to really see the fruits of that in their lifetime. It's for 2-3 generations down, and so we can see this desire, this natural instinctive desire to do good for the community, being misdirected to this again this impossible imaginary future. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what that was. What else? Yeah, so of course, you know, a lot of PR is done, and stuff to keep it going. But then it comes to, yeah, I suppose a couple of the messages that you might often get in a cult is, the world is evil and you are special. And so, again, this is tarring everyone with the same brush. What is important to remember is that there are evil people out there. There are predators. There are predators and prey. And you look at the way we treat animals, or whether it's a pet or whether we consider it food, or you just look at what goes on around us, there's no denying that that is how the world is. So, no, not everyone's evil. Many people are opportunists, and they don't necessarily intend to do evil, but they aim to there's self-preservation, and even, you know, maybe a cult leader isn't necessarily consciously creating a cult. They just find, this works, and this has made me popular. I've got some, you know, I've achieved something here. You know, people are going along with this. So they discover these things along the way. This just we know that the ego can just take control, and we know a lot of the people making decisions in government positions, for example, they're either, well, they're usually heavily influenced by certain people. They've got vested interests. Their hands are tied for certain reasons. You know, they're puppets. We know this. So it's a lot of people do probably start out with good intentions, but often the only way to get to the top is to trample on other people. So most people making decisions on behalf of other people are doing so because they have to. But again, one thing I did see in the UK when I was there at the start of all this back in February 2020 was that a lot of people are demanding to be told what to do, what to think, what to believe. Again, I think this is a symptom of, you know, everyone, you know, there are so many people that want to be in a cult. They don't want to think alone or independently. It's this huge desire to just conform, and we all do it, right? You know, we all you know, when you know, when you're in your early 20s or something, you could be anything, right? You could be a heavy metal fan, you could be a train spotter. It's just, it depends what comes along that influences you, and none of these are necessarily bad, but yeah, it's just, there is this desire to feel that you belong to something, to kind of be able to label yourself, to say I'm this kind of person. Yeah, punk. I remember I had a friend who was a punk. In fact, if you know the Diesel clothing, his silhouette, his face, the face that looks like it's a guy with a Mohican, that was him, because he had a band and they sold the rights to use that. That was their logo. It was a silhouette of this guy's head. But anyway, he was a punk from London. But it was just that I said, you know, I remember asking him what it was about being a punk that was good. He said, well, it's just that camaraderie. You know, you're walking down the street, you see another punk coming the other way, and it's like, yeah, there's this connection. There's this, you're in the club kind of thing. So it's. Yeah, and of course, what can we see here happening now with the face nappies and the what have you? All these things. Yeah, it's all the saying that I'm in the club. It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, and of course, I'm sure if you're in a store and you're not masked up, then you're gonna you're going to connect with the other person that's not masked up, and there's going to be this mutual understanding between you. So in a way, that's still a cult, isn't it? There is this cult, cult mentality amongst those free thinkers. Yeah. All right, let me just the chat's great. I'd like to come back to it in a minute. So yeah, the world is evil is a broad kind of sweeping statement, or you are special is a kind of, it's another way that people are kind of drawn into a cult. Yeah, sure, we're all special. I mean, we are all independent, and it is very difficult to actually consider other people, isn't it? Apart from yourself, it's well, we're all independent, but and this is something you hear from the globers when they're attacking the flat earthers. You think you're special, and it's like, well, no, it's actually the opposite. You actually suddenly realize that you know nothing, you've just believed a whole load of other stuff. It's not about this desire to tell other people, to get other people on board, is to not to convert them, not to change their belief, but to ask them to abandon belief. This is why we're going to get into now the reasons that FE is not a cult. Flat Earth is not a cult. Now, yes, there are certain people that were prevalent at first, maybe back in 2015, who were coming out with this stuff, and they were very eloquent, but they were not asking you to follow them. They were not asking you to be devoted to them. They were not asking you to believe in a certain model. Yeah. It's so there's no cult mentality there, but really this is a cult. If this is a cult of anything, it's a cult of breaking free from belief. Yeah, trying your best not to be swayed by a belief. And I'm sure a lot of you have been through this. Part of that process of really becoming free from the globe cult belief was a questioning of oneself, because the whole process is questioning your beliefs. So there is a point when you say to yourself, am I falling for some kind of cult belief? Am I being drawn into a cult? You do question it. Am I saying stuff that I can't prove? Am I saying any of these culty things? Am I being, so that's part of the question that goes on. And so no, because, again, one of the main messages is do your own research. So who else is going to tell you to go and do your own research and find out for yourself? Don't believe me. Don't believe what this guy's saying. Question it. Find out. Do your research. Look at the actual science. Look at real physics. Look at measurable proofs. Look at water. Look at the world around you. Look at nature. Look at the earth. Yeah, and look at the crazy ideas we've got, and which one is truth, which one's our belief. This is the whole thing, and this is why flat Earth as a subject fascinates me, because it's part of the journey to discern and discover what's real, what's the real me, what's the real purpose, what's the real meaning of being here, what is this place, what's it all about. I don't have any answers. I got some ideas which are a lot more comfortable than the ideas that we were sold or given to as part of our global culture. But there's nothing I can really prove, and that's part of it. When you realize that we are just we are left to our own devices to try and work it out. That's quite a realization. You realize you're on your own. There is no authority. There is no one that really knows what this place is, who we are, where we are. Anyone that is claiming to know is lying. That's the kind of cult mentality, or someone who's trying to be a cult leader is telling you this is the way it is. You've got to feel guilty about this. You've got to lead your life this way. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. That's good. That's evil. That's okay. That's not okay. That's what a cult is. But if you're totally open to that, and it's a constant effort to discern between reality and or fact and fiction, reality and belief. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah, that's what this is all about. So this is why FE is not a cult, because there are no leaders, and everyone that's trying to tell you do your own research. Don't believe anyone. Believe what you can know and find out for yourself. And it's all about knowing your own mind. Yeah, this is part of the whole. This is why something like Buddhism is more of a science. It's a science of the mind. Yes, it has its religious aspects, the robes, the worship, but you don't. Anyone who is on this path of truth seeking is following Buddhist precepts. You don't have to read and stuff. You don't. It's handy to have guides. It's handy to have people that are wiser. But you don't need that necessarily, because the knowledge, the wisdom is there. And that's why when we talk about consciousness being something eternal, something that's always there, whereas the physical body comes and goes, or we pop in and out of existence, that consciousness, that wisdom is always there. There is this there is something, some energy that kind of knows what's really going on and knows what this is all about. And maybe it's just having a game. Maybe it's just, this is fun. This is expressing myself. And we get in our physical bodies and in the culture that we are brought up in, we get all tangled up in these things, and we get all stressed out and all these things. And it's crazy, really, what we end up doing or thinking or believing when we are confused about what consciousness is, or we don't even recognize that there's this separation between the physical body and consciousness. Yeah, and I'm not trying to. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because it's so simple, but it's also so complex. The more you talk about it, the further you get from the truth. You can't talk about this to arrive at a solid thing. Ultimately, silence is the answer, because you've gone beyond trying to explain it. Something again that we're very hooked on. We're hooked on explanations. We are hooked on language, on meaning, on labels. Yeah, and isn't it the most difficult thing in the world to get away from a label? I hold this up, and you're going to call it a lighter, or if you're Thai, you're going to call it a phi check, which is like a phi light and check, phi check. Yeah. So these things come in, labels come in. You can't help it. That's part of the programming, and that's part of your culture. Yeah. So to get to that point where you are not attaching labels to everything you see, hear, or feel is extremely difficult. Huh? Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. I gotta get my kids to bed, I've been told, so I'm gonna have to do that soon. So we're gonna wrap this up. I was getting to the end of it there anyway. So yeah. And with the cult thing, there's always the them and us thing, and we see that happening, them and us. So one of these things, one of the things I'm trying to encourage is I want to. It's not about them and us. I don't want this division. I'd rather have this unity, a unity that celebrates the uniqueness of everyone. So getting away from that division, getting away from that them and us kind of mentality. Okay, so it's going to more anti-division rather than pro-division. And so there is. But ultimately there is a future payoff. For encouraging someone to look at reality and question the beliefs of the globe and all the other things that go with it, globalization, this whole global culture that we are born into, and it's really important to recognize. It's the payoff of realizing that we're not on a globe is that you become more independent. You then, you're then free of those chains. You then can go your own way. So it's like, what cult is going to tell you to off you go and find, I'm happy if you find your own path. Don't want you to follow me or anyone else. Yeah, follow your path, your truth. Find your truth. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the shape of the earth or where we are in space or when we are. That's not what it's all about. It's like, these are all distractions from the now. The truth is the now, the eternal now. So people making predictions about this, about a dystopian future or whatever. A lot of the time they're basing it on fear. So a lot of these alternative people, if they keep reminding you about the evilness of the Rona cult, then that's just going to be in your mind all the time. Actually, you've just got to kind of like detach from that. Don't channel that too much. Don't focus, because when you're focused, again, the distraction is getting you to focus on a certain thing. So if you're focused on it, then that's going to be, that's not good either. If you're totally focused on the evil that these people are doing, yeah, you gotta, that can kind of cloud the judgment as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think ultimately I just want to finish up with that. That's the thing. It doesn't matter where you were born, or what kind of situation you were born into, or who you are, or what you are. You have to recognize that we were born into a cult. Whether it's your family, your village, your country. That's what the education systems do. They get you to become a good cult member. It's just a case of realizing that and recognizing that. And there's no harm in going along with some of the cult narratives sometimes, just to participate in society, as long as that's not not being done for nefarious reasons. Yeah, to keep some kind of equilibrium, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with keeping the peace rather than fighting, right? So certain, we do make certain sacrifices sometimes and that's okay. It's okay to do that, right? So I think that's the main point I wanted to make, that, wherever, it doesn't matter who you are, we've all been born into some kind of belief system, and we have adopted beliefs, no matter what. It's unavoidable. Just learning a language means you adopt certain ways of seeing things or labeling things. Yeah. So, you do that for a few years of your life, but then the rest of the life is trying to, distance yourself or detach from that and from those beliefs. So it's really all about discerning between belief and reality. Yeah. Fact and fiction. And so the enemy in this FE cult, if you like, is belief. And I think that's okay to have. If your enemy is belief, it means you are constantly questioning, you are on guard against doing things that are ruled by belief or by the ego wanting to protect itself. Yeah. So I think in that sense, that's how you know that FE is Flat Earth is not a cult. There are cult elements, just like there are in any facet of society. They exist, and you just have to be aware of that, and maintain one's independence. All right. So, you know, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Yeah. I've come to kind of go. I hope that's gonna a nice conclusion there. And I would love to go through the chat, but the thing is, it's going to distract me forever. And you know, it's all for me. It's 10:30 at night. I've got to get my kids to bed. They've got to go to school. So David, hi, joined a bit late. So you know, thanks to all of you. There's so many new guys that I've not. Pablo's dog, hello again. Ad Potter, Disobey, Wesley Sher. Celtic Man, alternate view, Bagger, Chatty, World Without Curve. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. Sorry if I've missed some of your chats, but I do like to go through it later on, and feel free to, you know, if you feel the urge to say something, then put it in the comments after this has finished. But you know, for now, so I just want to say thank you very much for coming along, and I hope you will have a great new year, whether you celebrate it or not. It's a new beginning in many ways, and we'll catch up soon. Yeah. All right. So thank you very much, and you take care.